Okay. Jesteśmy na żywo, John.
Maybe
Okay.
English.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Just living in Poland. 30 years of democracy. Peter, say something about it.
Yeah, today they are celebrating the democracy in Gdańsk. I just read recent news that the representative of the Andrzej Duda, the current president of Poland, her name is Zofia Romaszewska. She read a letter from him. And Aleksander Kwaśniewski, the former president, commented that from his presidential practice, it would be nice that sometime, because for the presidents usually they are not writing those letters, mostly their advisors writing those letters. And he said like it would be cool if those people would at least read these letters as well and try to implicate some of these statements which they are stating in the letter to the publicity. I mean, like when we are talking right now about the 30 years democracy in Poland, what do you think? What do you see? Like, how do you perceive this democracy, this freedom, so called?
Well, first of all, I'm blessed to live in a democratic state, not a socialist one or any other kind of regime of totalitarian dictatorship nature. Yeah, otherwise, in Poland, I see a massive potential. I myself, when I was growing up, I remember that having a computer, I think my first computer was one of those massive desktop Macs or whatever, the Mac 2s, or I don't remember what they were called, but they were massive, the blue. Um, and it was like, wowzers, like, this is a massive just piece of technology. I wasn't even able to wrap my head around what it was because it was just so new and I was still growing up. But I have experienced a significant change. Um, Perhaps older generations experienced it a bit, better or negative because it depends. Otherwise, when it comes to the overall state of democracy in Poland, I think it's pretty stable. I think it's functioning. That's the most important thing, and that it exists. However, I think a more important aspect of the 30 years of democracy in Poland is not the governmental system, but rather the free markets. Won't you agree?
I mean, like, hence you said that like the democracy in Poland functioning very well. I would disagree with you. I know that you would agree with yourself, but I would disagree with you because in democracy within the Poland issue, we see the huge populist lobby. I think like sometimes like even populism is coded in the democracy because the people are choosing you. So you have to somehow bring them on your side. It's so-called populism, and that's why like the some people they are against that. Another thing which bothers me within the Polish case, it's this ideological lobby where both of the parties they are like they are based on some religious, either as I said, ideologies. For example, when we are looking on the law and justice, like they are basing on the these Catholic lobbies. We looking on the civic platform. They're based on this liberal order. When we are looking on confederation, they are like completely out of the scope, and they are like claiming that everything what is not Polish, it's dangerous. So I would say that like also the compromises are disappearing in Polish
Polish societies.
societies. It disappears. Like I mean, like the compromises. For example, when we see the uh, presidency of Lech Kaczynski when he need to compromise with Donald Tusk as a prime minister, well, that was way different, right? They could find a compromise. But right now, when we are looking on the opposition, it's completely different. They cannot find a common language between each other.
I mean, I think it's important what you mentioned that there's the two main political parties that it seems that they're playing to their base, and we all think it's super funny because we all know that they're all pandering to their base. That's, as you said, the current rule panders to a base of Catholics, basically, of religious of the religious portion of the population. Um, and it's quite weird how, in response, the the civic platform panders to actually an extreme, which would be an extreme, at least in the eyes of the Catholic society, which it would be the LGBTQ communities. And it's quite interesting how it all plays out, that they're constantly fighting with each other.
Well, when we are looking on the Polish democracy, actually, like, do you see some new faces in here? Like, because most of them, they are like, actually, sometimes they're coming from nowhere, and after it turns out that either his father was a politician, either like they had some connections, and like literally, when you're gonna look on the whole movement of Solidarność, it's completely different. Like when you're looking on them, I mean, like completely different. It's completely same. When you're looking on the face in the Polish politics, all of them, they are same. You don't see any new faces. You don't see any new proposals. Everything is on and on and on same. For example, when we are even looking on the 30 years of Polish democracy, when you're gonna look on the celebrations of 20 years of democracy, possibly just two new faces gonna appear on these ones. So like that bothers me also, that like Polish politics, it's really hermetic for the new voice, for the new speeches. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, but there's also one thing that you mentioned before we started the program, which was, I think, very important, and actually reflective of the current socio-political society, socio-political atmosphere in the country. That a majority of, well, not majority, but a significant amount of the Polish people in politics go to politics for because they have this calling, but it's a calling of simply securing their future.
Yeah.
So having benefits of like a governmental administrator or
They are
entity.
not going for the people.
Absolutely not.
They are not going for the people. For example, when you're gonna look on the Norway, when you don't get salary for being the parliamentary, like I mean, like in whole sphere of politics, when you don't get money, you are going there really for the people, for your own people, because you at first have to manage how to get the money. And what bothers me the most when I'm looking on the Polish politics is like how much money we are giving for the campaigns. Where like I'm really fan of this how it looks in United States when you have to by yourself get the money for campaigns. I mean, like it also has some pros and cons because, like, for example, when you have to get the money for your own campaign, obviously you're building some lobbyists around you. But like when you're looking for the in Poland, like lobbyists are already in the government. So both of these, like, it's pretty bad. But like I think the sponsorship of the political party in Poland, it's really bad with our revisionist mentality, and yeah, I would say that.
I mean, I would agree with you because we do tend to focus a lot on our history,
Past history, truth,
and we seem that we seem to find the most absurd sometimes arguments when it comes to international relations. Like, for example, uh, the reparations from Germany.
Mhm.
I think this is a completely absurd topic, especially because it deteriorates at least 60 years of trying to, maintain a stable relationship with our neighbor. And it's quite annoying when you have people that are coming in and essentially ruining a long-standing attempt to at least normalize the relations. Don't you think that it's kind of annoying when when those politicians that are coming out with historical, pride that we withstood the Third Reich, we withstood the communism, and now it seems that all they want to do is kind of build up their popularity and politics upon something that does not exist anymore, and they will not receive like it would work perhaps if the atmosphere was still there.
I mean, like, yeah, that I agree. Like, I mean, like, instead of like making the Poland country and society like as the one body, they're trying to divide us as on many many parts as much they can, because each of them wants to get like his own part and get the benefits out of it. For example, when you're gonna look on the on like the turnout of the European elections, and like we can see there how actually Poland is even divided for the eastern and western part of Poland, because like as we all know, like eastern, I mean like not all, but like eastern Poland, it's way more conservative to the western part of Poland, which is more liberal, which is like have the foundations like more based on this German culture, because it was like before the Second World War, it was actually German. There is like German architecture, etc. The Polish are repatriants from the eastern borders. So yeah, I would agree on that. That they are not looking at all for the people. They are not looking for anything else than benefits and division of Poland. So like sometimes it bothers me, like why they are doing all of this celebration, which they don't bring anything. Sure, we can be proud that like yeah, we won with communism, but what happened after the presidency of Lech Wałęsa, like after he got the presidential office, like after his presidential office, the election chose him, like the elections chose it SLD, which was like the Social Democratic Party, in which party were like many people from the Communist Party, the previous Communist Party, which collapsed, hence to the Solidarność and the round table talks. And because of that situation, it shows how Poland actually is insecure about their own choices. Because when you're gonna look at, like for example, yeah, we won with communism at first, and after 5 years we are choosing the political party, which was strictly attached to the communist doctrine. That's pretty. That's pretty like weird to me, but like I kind of understand, because Polish people, they are always like against everything. Even if something is good, no, we have to be against. We are always like rebel society, you know.
Let's talk about the Polish society a bit, because this is a particularly, I mean, because we're Polish, we can talk about it a little bit, and
Yeah.
I think it's quite hilarious how Polish people like to complain about everything, and they always complain about everything but themselves. And I'm talking about it on an individual level. That when you have one person, he's always gonna blame and complain about his environment, the people around him, but
Yeah,
he's
but no.
never gonna.
Yeah, he's
look at-
he's
no,
like
he's
the best.
perfect.
Yeah, he's perfect. But for example, this is also so-called this Polish optimism. This is so-called this Polish optimism. When you're gonna look on the situation when this is this so-called Polish optimism, that like for example, Polish person gonna tell you like, yeah, it rains, but just from the top. That's the Polish positivism. We are not positive people. You don't see people smiling. If someone is smiling to you at the street, he's considered as weird. He's considered like some psycho. He's considered as like someone who is not attached to our society. How he can smile? He possibly is foreigner. He is like, which is amazed by something which we are bored. You know what I mean? It's like when you speak with the foreigners, even in our university or with our friends, like those people, they don't see as many negative aspects of Poland as we do see. We, for example, saying like, oh, Poland is great. Go to Czech Republic. Poland, like Czech Republic is also great. Go to each country, like even the Eastern Berlin, each post-communistic uh, countries, they are great, and like we cannot do anything about it. Instead of like just like accept that, you know.
I mean, the funniest thing is, for example, Polish drivers, when they think, and exactly what you said is actually transformed onto on the Polish roads, when they're so convinced that they're like the experts on driving,
Yeah.
and when they can go above the law and, for example, use like a U-turn that's not meant for turning, and like they go double cross, and it's just some of them are just so weird. Or like, we Polish like to engage ourselves in, for example, some alcohol. We all know that. And for example, a funny situation is when you see that all over the city, when people are carrying those very heavy bags, and they usually drop them and they forget they have their laptop in them. That's something that happened to you, from what I remember.
Yeah, it happened to me, and then like after 1 minute, I'm realizing, oh damn, I had the laptop there. Because if I wouldn't have the laptop there, I would just be like, whatever.
No,
it's
but that was a funny situation
Yeah.
because you dropped it, and like you were like just chilling there, and you were just, standing there just waiting for your coffee, and you just dropped it like, yeah, that's what I usually do. But then you heard this crack noise, and you're like, oh crap, my laptop. And everybody looked at you like, that guy is clearly, forgetting about his situation.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, like, yeah, but like this happens to Poles. Like, we are like don't care till the moment when it comes that something is precious, like for us somewhere. Like for example, my laptop where I have all my works for the studies. I was like, yeah, I don't care. But then I'm realizing, damn, I have to spend it like another like
Yeah.
3,000-4,000 Polish zloty for that. Like, the Polish people, I think we are trying to say that we are not materialistic, but we do. We are materialistic.
I
We
mean,
are.
I think we are materialistic, but it's incredibly funny how what is the nature of our materialism. So, for
Yeah.
example, we're gonna buy like an iPhone, for example, or like a extremely expensive Samsung phone,
Yeah.
or whatever. But so we can afford that. But when it breaks, we're gonna go to the cheapest repair shop.
Yeah.
Because we want to,
Exactly.
spend, we want to save some money, which is completely
Or
weird.
either when you see these girls which they wants to show up with like the new iPhones, and after like one party they are breaking their screen, and after for 2 or 3 months they could afford the iPhone which costs like $1,000, but they cannot afford the changed screen which gonna cost her like $200, because it's like it's just for the show off. As like for example this, like, come on, it's not just like as everyone's saying like, oh, just Russia, Ukraine, whatever. In Poland it also appears like these fake Louis Vuitton bags where everyone knows that you have these Louis Vuitton fake bags or like
I
Gucci
know
bags.
people who wear fake Louis Vuitton bags are especially annoying. I know what you mean. No, but it seems also to me.
You know what I mean? It's like if you can afford, for example, the Chanel bag, for what the heck you are driving in a tram? I mean, like the Chanel bag costs like approximately for Polish zloty around like 10,000 Polish zloty. So like you can buy like cheap car for that, right?
Yeah.
So if you can afford the Chanel bag, how come you still are riding in the tram? I mean, like, I know
Well, I mean, maybe they got it as a present.
I know, but like, still, It's
No, I know what you mean.
It's like for example, you are wearing the brand new like Kanye West clothes or like Tom Ford suit, but you are like flying in the economic class, and you are not trying to be humble. You are just literally like.
Well, perhaps it's because, like, actually got me thinking. Perhaps it's because when you have, for example, when you have something, like for example a Chanel bag or Hermes bag, which is like one of the most expensive ones from
Yeah.
what I heard, and you go into a society or at least a environment where, like in a tram, where
Yeah.
people don't have it, you stand out better, and you stand out more than if you were in a car where nobody can see it. Perhaps it's that.
But do you think that, like, for example, the old grannies which they are riding in a tram, they know what is Hermes bag or like Chanel?
No, but all the other girls that can't afford it and are riding a tram know it. But it's like, it's funny because you want to show off, but as soon as somebody takes a picture of you, you're already like, oh, how could you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
We
also.
we value our privacy, but we love to be exposed. I think is how I would.
Yeah, like for
describe us.
example, even when you're gonna look on the fences, like for example, when you are in States or when you are even in Norway, whatever, like in other kind of, even in Germany, the fence is like approximately like half meter. In Poland, it looks like the wall of like the Great Wall of China, like all around the houses, because we value our privacy. Where like in Norway or like US or something like that, there is just grass and that's it. You don't need that. But still, for example, on the front of the house you need to like park your brand new car. You need to build like your house. It has to be a castle, but has to be protected by big as wall. You know what I mean? It's also like surprising.
And it's funny how all those Democrats in the U.S. who are saying, "Oh, don't build a wall," those senators and politicians usually have a massive board wall around their house and security, because armed security too.
Yeah.
Which is annoying. Yeah, it's just Polish people are pretty specific, but we love them, meaning we love ourselves.
I mean, like, yeah, but what do you think about, like, okay, so let's switch the topic. What do you think about right now, the most granted, let's we say, TV show in the history for now, Chernobyl, in the short.
It's a miniseries. It's
Miniseries
quite
of
good.
HBO.
I haven't seen the season finale yet, even though it's just 5 episodes.
Yeah, it's like
I think
it comes out today.
I think it's a
last-
very good.
last episode.
I think it's a very good series because first of all, it's only 5 episodes. So, um, you already have a budget planned out, and you don't have to worry about the future. You don't have to worry about having a cliffhanger. You don't have to worry about like making decisions or anything, because it's already done. It's filmed. It's done. No more. They're not gonna touch it
Yeah.
anymore. And this is one of my rules when it comes to series. I rather have not enough than too much. Game of Thrones, I think, is an example of it. I don't know if you watch it, but
I mean, like, do you remember this like pre-famous show Prison Break?
I know it, but I haven't watched it.
I mean, like, I've watched like 2 seasons, and then I got bored because, like, they were like keep going on the same stories, and that's the problem with every show. I think when like the producers are like, surprised by the success at beginning of the show, and they are keep trying to like build up the story, but then it gets boring and boring and boring and more and boring. So like, so you're less interested in that.
No, I think Chernobyl is one of the best series, and yes,
And it's based on facts. Like
Yeah.
there is like even fans already of this show, which they are like googling all of this what they are talking about. I do have even like I was looking for the pictures of those people like which they were like really there,
Mhm.
the scientists and everything, and even actors look alike the people which they were working there before. Like the real people which they were like participants.
I
in the
think we're
contest.
we're so used to things like Game of Thrones or all those medieval or futuristic kind of series that we forget how interesting and fantastic reality was and history.
That's
Because
true. We don't have like much of the shows which people are fascinated by this.
yeah,
What's going on? We always have to put some fantasy in it, you
yeah,
know?
and I think people are sick and tired already of dragons or magic. Is how much of that can we have? And I think that a fantastic series like Chernobyl, I think it works because it's realistic and because it's based on investing emotions into history. So something that happened, not into fictional characters. You and it there is no illusion created because it happened. However, in Game of Thrones or series like with magic or like Lord of the Rings or like I'm just saying like with movies
Or even Marvel, which is science
or
fiction.
Marvel like science fiction, you kind of have to enter this illusion that
Yeah.
like this is fake, but I want it to be true, but this is fake. And I know that. And here it's like, okay, this is a series, but it's those are actors, and this is not actually happening, but it happened. And I think it's interesting because I mean this is actually one of my always fantasies was to enter into any period of history, like for example Chernobyl, and try to see what happened. And I think perhaps this is not exactly 100%, everything that happened.
Yeah, they were saying,
it-
for example, that the building of the reactor was not as destroyed
Yeah,
as
yeah,
it appears in the show,
but
but
it
like,
gives you this amazing insight into something that we only learned from history books, from people telling us about it, and from very, very limited amount of pictures.
yeah, but don't you see, for example, this problem of the Hollywood right now that like, when was the last movie based on a history which got popular? I mean, Dunkirk, for example. That was like the previous which got like really like famous because of the Christopher Nolan and Hans Zimmer participation there. Another one which I can
Yeah, but those are war movies, and war movies are always like major
exaggerated.
success and a bit exaggerated.
Yeah, but as we were talking like previously with the ambassador, do you remember? He said that like many soldiers, and like we don't want to offend in here anyone, but like many soldiers, they are often glorifying the missions, the war, and everything what happens there. And I think like also these war movies, they're often glorifying these situations because like I would say that I don't like this calling that someone won the war because in war you don't have winners. On both sides people die. Winner is this one which don't have to start a war, which don't have to rage a war, which can like take care for this by the diplomatic way, by the soft power. I know that you are not fan of the soft power, so called.
I am a fan of soft power, but I think
To some extent, I understand because like
I think I would describe war in a bit different way. For example, I think it does during war or conflict, but let's say war. During war, it doesn't matter who is right. It matters who is left. So it means who survives. For those who are a bit slow and don't know.
Yeah, but like as Schlieffen said also that
And
the
Schlieffen plan.
the war is just extension of the politics.
Or war is just a war is just a pause between peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we're pretty smart on that one. Today we're gonna end a bit short because we're missing one anchor. Otherwise, thanks you everybody for watching.
Thank
I
you.
hope it was a very laid back one, as the title suggested. We didn't talk about super serious stuff, not super serial stuff, because just it's start to the summer, and we just wanted to kind of also casually. We're also just in t-shirts today, so
No.
well.
You are in t-shirt.
Yeah, but on the camera it doesn't look like you have a. But yeah, you have your button. What's his face? You have your button on tight.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for listening.
Thank
hope hope we're gonna entertain you next week, or perhaps in a few days. We don't know how often we're gonna be doing these things. Hopefully enough for you guys to have a fun time with us, and perhaps even you will. One of you will ask more questions, or even be invited on the show. For the trip here, our sponsor will pay for your trip wherever you are. Okay, thank you everybody. Piotr, say
Thank
bye
you.
one more time.
See you guys.
All right, thank you guys, everybody.